Welcome back to Five Friday Feedback Viewer Mailbag. Today's letter says, caught between family and finance, stuck overseas for work while my kids grow up without me. How about that? Wow, what a doozy. Alrighty. Howdy, Five Guys. Howdy. That is us. I'm reaching out because I feel like I'm stuck in a catch-22 and I am desperately in need to figure things out. Gotcha. So it says that right now, life feels like a constant balancing act with no end in sight, and it's getting harder and harder to ignore the weight of that. Let me paint you a picture of our life. We are a family of 5. Myself, my wife, and 3 beautiful kids, ages 9, 3, and 2. Congratulations. I'm in my late 30s, and my wife stays at home with the kids. It's a choice we made out of both love and necessity when our 3rd child was born. We did the math, and daycare costs alone would have eaten up around $3,000 a month. It just didn't add up for my wife to keep working while her salary wouldn't cover much beyond childcare. So we made the choice for her to stay home. I love that. I would have loved that if my mom stayed home. That would have been awesome.
Before we move on,
please,
before we move on that. So $3,000 a month for childcare, that's probably pretty accurate. I don't know. But what I do know is that most finance people, if you were to like ask Dave Ramsey's or the Susie Irwins of the world, would be like, your wife's only making $3,000 a month. She should go and find more time. Or go and find more money and get a better job. And could she probably do that? Yes. But you also have to incorporate something that most people who only focus on the money don't. And that's the emotional attachment to being there with your kids and being able to know, like, how much is it worth to be there with my 3 kids every single day. So that's what I'd rather focus on this one is, well, as we go through and kind of see in finance, I think so many people just want the answer. And the truth of finance and the truth in all of life is that there are no answers and there are no solutions, only trade-offs. So could your wife go and find a better job that maybe pays more? Yes, but it will take her away from her kids. And how much is that worth to her? $2,000, $3,000, $4,000? While we may be easily able to quantify these numbers, you can't easily quantify the unquantifiable metrics like time with your kids. And I think that this is what this dad is really struggling with, just from the title of the book thus far.
100%, 100%. And if she was already working, I wouldn't suggest quitting your job, right? And just going and staying home. Like, no, but this is the situation that they chose. And I agree with you 100%, Chris. Like, maybe she's making an extra $500, $1,000 more, right? Than the $3,000 for childcare, right? Is $500 worth all that time with your kids? It's like, I wouldn't think so. I would think it'd be worth more to spend time with your kids. And every kid I know would have wanted that. At least I know I would. Financially, we're not just scraping by, but we're right on the edge. With my income and a bit of rental revenue, okay, good to know.
Nice.
We're pulling in about $12,000 a month. Now, granted, pause, $12,000, that is a lot of money. To me, probably to you, Chris, as well, right? To most. But it's all about where. Where is that? Are we talking 12,000 in Hawaii? Talking 12,000 in New York? Are we talking 12,000 in Oklahoma? Right. So it all depends. It all depends. After paying out for the essentials, mortgage, the rental mortgage as well, car payments, groceries, and utilities, we're left only with a small buffer. In total, our expenses hit around $11,000 every month. It's tight enough that we can feel the pressure building. The real challenge, though, is my work situation. My current job has me working outside of the country for weeks at a time, sometimes even longer. I'm grateful for the income it brings in, but I'm missing out on my kids' lives. Every time I leave, I feel I'm missing milestones, bedtime stories, and even those precious little family moments. I feel like I'm watching them grow through photos and videos, and it breaks my heart. A new job opportunity has come up closer to home, one where I'd finally be able to tuck my kids in at night, help with homework, and really just be there for all the little things that I've been missing. But there's an issue with it. Here's the rub. This new role would pay around $131,000 a year, which translates roughly to about $6,000 a month. That's a big drop from what we're pulling in even now. And if the vacant Let's see. That's a big drop from what we're pulling in now. Even if I get the vacant rental unit leased out. Okay, so the rental property, I'm guessing it's just one, is vacant currently. So they're paying the mortgage on 2 homes, and the rental property is not cash flowing at all because there's no rental. There's no one renting it. Okay.
Okay, so we have something we can clearly fix.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. So with our current expenses, taking this job means that we'd short out about $2,500 each month. Okay, so they'd be short 2,500. Gotcha. And with no family to lean on, my parents have passed away, and my wife is either estranged or struggling with their own issue. My wife's family, that is, struggling with their own issues. There's no safety net to really fall on.
here, one second before we move on. So I've just noticed a kind of an abnormality with this. So he said that they would be short about $2,500 if they took this job that was paying them $6,000 a month. But they're currently making $12,000 a month, and they said their expenses hit $11,000 every month. So 11,000 minus 6,000 is $5,000. So it's actually double the amount they're going to be losing every month, unless they're saying we'll have to also cut back on a bunch of stuff, and then it would be 2,500. I don't know, but I'm just saying that based off what I'm seeing in this letter, there may be some issues on not having a very good understanding as to how much money is going out for real. And it sounds like we might just be guessing based on every number ending on zeros. And whenever a number ends in a solid zero or in double zeros, you can usually double it, which would be perfect because they said 2,500 when based off the numbers you said earlier, it's probably 5,000. So if you double it, that's probably what it actually is.
I keep asking myself, what am I doing wrong here? And whether there's any way to make this work. I feel like I'm caught between 2 impossible choices. Stay in a job that takes me away from my family, that happens to really feed them, clothe them, and give them a good life, or take a local role that might not cover our basic needs. My wife and I will have to run the numbers again and again, but each time we come up with nothing. We come up with hitting a wall. Yeah. Is there any way to make this work that I'm just not seeing? Could we adjust our budget or our approach? Maybe there's something that we're not seeing could close the gap. Any advice, any insights would mean the world to us. We're looking for a way to bring a little bit of stability, presence into our lives. Thank you for listening to our story, and thank you for any guidance you can offer. From Here's my goal, a life where I play a role as dad. Should I trade in the grind for a moment I can rewind? Interesting. Wow.
I'm going to restate that from because the rhyme that you said was all off. So here's my goal, a life where I play a dad's role. Should I trade in the grind for moments I can't rewind?
Yeah, I read that before and I was like, I butchered it 3 times straight and I was like, frick, I know I'm going to butcher it live. Yeah, that is the correct version. That is the correct version. You know, the unevolved version of me says, keep working your job. You're putting your kids through school. Your wife gets to stay home. Embrace it. Suck it up. Right? But he's also just a human being. Right? He wants to be a father. He wants to be a dad. He's missing those opportunities. How can he possibly do that, Chris?
You know, I first have to say, like, this situation is one of those situations that just kind of sucks in that as a financial advisor, a financial coach, a financial consultant, I can't give you a clear answer. And unfortunately, most times I can't give people clear answers. I can only give them the trade-offs, and they have to make a choice because there is no solution to this. There's only going to be trade-offs. In truth, it sounds to me like you don't have a very good understanding as to how much money is actually going out. Because from what I already pointed out, we have some abnormalities between how much you said you spend each month versus how much you expect to bring in, and then what that would mean for you. In addition to that, you've created a life in that you have huge amounts of fixed costs. So yes, you are making good money, $12,000 a month. But that also means that your lifestyle on just your fixed costs inflated up to $11,000 a month, which is basically, 92%, 89, 88% of the amount of money you bring in. Therefore, kind of tying yourself to the job that you now want to get away from. Now, as someone who wants to be a stay-at-home father, I get it, man. I get like that you want to be home for your kids. And I really wish I could give you like, oh yeah, just do this 3 tips and then you're going to be good to go. You can stay home with your kids and you can work from home and do all these things. And unfortunately, this is not going to be what I can tell you because there's going to have to be sacrifices made here. In order for you to be home with your kids, if you're currently making $12,000, I'm just going to go off of your numbers.
Mhm.
If you're making currently $12,000 a month, and you say if you translate to the new job at $6,000 a month, but your expenses are on average $11,000 a month, you're losing $5,000 a month. And while being home with your kids may sound emotionally the right thing to do, and may actually be the right thing to do, we still have to work in the world of physics. And the physics of money is that the math is not mathing based off what you're saying. So are there ways we can increase our income? One thing that you said in here is that you said you had rental income, but then later on you said that the house was vacant. So I'm assuming you don't have rental income. Can we explore ways to maximize this rental and get a tenant in there like immediately? Because you said that you're paying mortgage on your house and your rental house. If that house is staying vacant and you're not making money on it, you have 2 options. If you want to move towards the moving closer to home type thing, that's either you get a tenant in there immediately that's paying you rent and paying over the mortgage to bring in some additional income, or you sell the house. You can't continue to pay 2 mortgages and take a 50% haircut on your income. That would wreck you.
Yeah. 2 mortgages is hard enough, right? As is.
1 mortgage is hard enough.
One mortgage is hard enough, let alone 2, right? And I don't know what his numbers. I don't know what the finances of the rental. I don't know if he's cash flowing maybe $100, $500. I'd be surprised if he was cash flowing $500 a month, to be honest, because most don't. But yeah, you might maybe short-term rental, maybe Airbnb.
Yep.
I don't know. Now that's a whole different business model, mind you, but could be an option if you're already not renting it out. Yeah, that's tough. That's unbelievably tough.
You can only go up if you start doing something. So maybe it's on the market right now for a long-term rental. Can we lower down the rent slightly? Like, can you do something? Your wife's at home. Could she maybe be like the property manager? Like, you need to get that either get the house rented immediately with either short-term or long-term, or do something, or you need to get rid of it. Because if you want to, if you want to maintain the job you have and not be home with your kids and keep on doing what you're doing, go for it. But then I don't think you'd be writing into us if that was the case. It sounds to me like your heart really wants to take this local job, but your head is saying this is impossible because of the lifestyle we have.
Yeah.
And both of those 2 things are true simultaneously.
Yeah.
You are right both ways. Your heart's right and your head's right. So the next thing I'm going to tell you after we get the house rented out immediately or sold is you need to assess your spending. We've already talked about it, but you need to actually review every expense and categorize to see if there's any areas you can cut back, even temporarily, especially in the discretionary spending. So I would consider tracking every single expense for a month, then go 2 months and identify any areas for savings. And therefore you can actually have real numbers. Because right now this $11,000, $6,000, $2,500, these are, I feel like right now you're just throwing numbers at the board and seeing what sticks. Because just in this short letter you sent us, we have 3 different abnormalities in the amount of money you say you spend versus how much money you would be bringing in versus how much money you'd be under or over.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like you might not have a full knowledge. And yeah, it's going to look a lot scarier and be a lot harder to know when you're just guessing at shit.
Honestly, yeah. I agree 100%. 100%. If you don't have the right numbers, then you can't make the right decision. So, yeah.
Next thing we might be able to do to bring in some extra income is look at some refinancing options for both the rental property and for the home. I'm not sure when you purchase it, maybe you locked in great things. If that's the case, go ahead and negate this part. But if you did purchase a home more recently, rental or interest rates have lowered. So you may be able to lower your interest rate, which could lower the amount of burden you have every month. You're going to have to see into that a little bit deeper, but that's something to think about. Additionally, if you do decide to take this new job that's closer to home, would that give you time maybe for a part-time job, for some more flexibility, something else you can do where you're at home? I don't know, maybe remote side work or some freelance work, something like that. Because taking a 50% haircut on your current salary to go from, I don't know, maybe 260 to 130 is really, really big, especially when you are currently living on a 260 a month salary or 260 a year salary. Like you're spending all that money to take 50. If you were living on 130,000 while making 260, then I'd say, yeah, we could probably do this. But you're living on 260 and spending like you're living on 260. And now you want to go down to 130. It's going to be really hard. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. And I'm not sure if you and your family are willing to do that. Because the most important thing in financial planning isn't what are you willing to do? It's what are you not willing to do?
Well, I hope that helps. I hope that's actionable for you. And we wish you the best of luck. We really do. I don't think I have any final thoughts on that. I mean, you really summed it up in a way that I couldn't have. So I appreciate you for that. Yeah, that's
of
tough.
course. I mean, yeah, it's tough. I mean, from my standpoint, this is the reason that I've worked so hard to when we do have kids, that I can stay home. And that's not only making more money when I was younger, it's also cutting our lifestyle back down so that we could live off of one income for both me and my wife, so that I could take a step back when we have kids and it not be an issue. But unfortunately, if you keep on making money and your lifestyle inflates with that money in lockstep, you're really tying yourself to that job. And I feel like that's the situation he's in. So can he do it? Can he take this other job? Yes, 100%. I don't know where he's going to be able to cut 50% of his spending and still feel like he's living the life. Can you do it? 100%. Living off $6,000 a month is totally doable. Families do it all across America every single day. But once you've inflated your lifestyle, people believe that your life should move up in this perfect, like 45-degree arch and never go down. Unfortunately, if you want to take this 50% cut, it will decrease. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But it's making sure that you and your wife are okay with that if you want to move forward and take the job closer to home. And if you do that, maybe your wife could look at like part-time daycare and get a job as well, something to bridge the gap. Because my biggest concern is going from like, I don't know, $200,000 to like 180, not too big of a jump. Maybe even 150. You know, that's a big jump. 25% jump's big, but a 50% jump is huge. And that is just a very large chasm to try to jump.
Yeah.
They're trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah. That's a painful. You're going to have to 25% you can sacrifice some of the non-necessities, but at 50%, your life's going to look different. It's bound to look different. Yeah, in ways you might not like.
Yeah, so you just need to decide how much is being home with your kids worth. I can't quantify for that for you. You know, Dominic can't. No one can. You have to decide that for yourself. But more importantly, if you do decide that being home with your kids is worth more than $130,000, which I would agree it probably is, like at least for me in my standpoint, it still doesn't negate that you have to somehow find $130,000 of expenses to cut. And that's just the hard part about it. And I'm sorry you find yourself in this situation. I think we can, instead of saying everything's going to be okay, I know it will be okay. And right now it sucks. And right now you do have to go through it. You do have to make hard choices. And if you and your wife stick to it, you communicate openly, you find what's going to work for both of you, you can make it through this. But that doesn't mean that right now doesn't suck, and that's okay.
100%. Well, with that being said, we wish you the best of luck.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.